preliminary praise, but I just want to acknowledge that he has been working very hard on behalf of the system, and thus far he has produced some great results for our colleges. So we're hopeful that he will now carry it across the finish line.
Great, thank you. President Estolano, Vice President Epstein, members of the Board of Governors, Chancellor Oakley. I'll go over really briefly the two documents that have been left on your at your stations. The first one is a chart, and this is something that you guys have probably come accustomed to seeing. It's a breakdown of our entire Proposition 98 budget, only in the budget year. I haven't decided to put 3 of these on for each of the separate years. And what this does is it compares what we have in the current year budget, the 16-17 final budget, with what was provided in the governor's budget and what also was provided in the May revision, and shows you kind of a tracking of the changes on there. And also, there's this document that I provided, which is more of a narrative document, something that we sent out to the field immediately upon analyzing the budget that kind of includes a summary of what's in there. And I'll go over a few of the highlights. But what you'll find is if you look at this chart, is that if you look at the column that says, it's the third to the right that says changes from the governor's budget to the May revision, and the corresponding notes on the very right side of the table, what you'll find is that the governor, from a 30,000-foot big picture level, has made some workload adjustments where needed to things such as growth or to the mandates claims item, which we could talk about a little bit later. He's made some revenue adjustments here or there to things such as the Proposition 39 facilities improvements fund. But more than anything else, and also some adjustments to cost of living adjustments to some of our categoricals. But the big splash that he made was something that this board requested, also had broad support within the constituencies throughout our system, is he made a huge investment in base increase. That base increase was a reflection of a few things. One, that during the recession, our apportionments item, which funds the bulk of what keeps colleges operating, lost about 15% purchasing power, which is about $1 billion. In addition to that, since the beginning of the pension reform that the governor has kind of spearheaded, the employer cost to our districts will increase by about $700 million. And so, well, at times there is not a strong lobby for a base increase because there's not one constituency group that, goes and champions it like some of our other categorical programs. This is desperately needed for our system to be able to make it not only what the costs are seeing now, but also through the coming recession, which we know is bound to be here. So with that, I'll kind of talk a little bit about this document. So first, from a Proposition 98 perspective, what you'll find is that in 15-16, the Proposition 98 guarantee increased a little bit by about $400 million. The current year went down by about $500 million, and the budget year went up by about $1.1 billion. Now, one of the other things that we talked about, if you remember from the last time I spoke on budget, was that we did not receive our constitutionally required, although it can be waived, 10.93% of the split in the budget year. The governor has listened, and he's made good on that promise. Technically, when you do the calculations of Proposition 98, you look at what's only available in the budget year, and in that sense, we got 10.90%, so we're off 0.03%. But what he did is there's this thing called settle up, and it's one-time money that's owed from prior years. He gave us the lion's share of that funding, which gets us to that appropriate 10.93% split. So when we asked the governor on base increase to provide us resources, he did. When we asked the governor to make sure that we were whole and that our students were able to receive their full 10.93%, he did. And so very thankful on those two main asks of him. There's also some changes, just to let the board know, on how the governor calculated the Proposition 98 guarantee. So theoretically, Proposition 98, or technically, the Proposition 98 guarantee acts as a floor and a ceiling. If you overfund it one year, it becomes, that's the new base. You can't go back. So he overfunded the prior year, and what he's done to mitigate the out-year effect that it'll have is he's tampered down one of the out-year drivers of 98. So theoretically, over a 5-year period, we'll be at the same place. There'll be plenty of discussion in that. It's a pretty weedy, wonky, and technical topic, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. We're thankful that he overfunded the guarantee. Spending more money on schools and community colleges is very much in line with, I think, what this board would support. And so it's a step in the right direction for California. Whether it sticks or not is something that the legislature will decide, but we're thankful for his initial consideration. Another area where we made significant progress in this budget was in staffing. Through the last probably 6 months, the governor and the Department of Finance, or the governor's office and the Department of Finance, have engaged with our office, primarily spearheaded by Deputy Chancellor Skinner, but also involved pretty much every vice chancellor had to kind of take their division through this is kind of what we do, very much a zero-based budgeting approach to staffing. And the outcome of that was an additional allocation of 6 positions that were funded, and as you heard about earlier, they're primarily in the TRIS division and the institutional effectiveness division, aligned with where we're going as a system around this concept of guided pathways, which envisions a more robust data and research accountability framework. And so we're thankful for the consideration there. And also, we had held a position vacant due for salary savings as the executive vice chancellor. We received additional consideration, not for a technical position, but the funding that would allow us to fill that position again. And so, again, another area where the governor's office, the Department of Finance have heard us, and they made this a priority for us. While not technically in the May revision, there's a separate technical process called the April 1st letter process. And it's a finance letter, and it's, generally speaking, supposed to be used for technical issues. Because of the timing of the passage of Proposition 51, that's the statewide facilities bond, of which our office, our system received $2 of the $9 billion, they were not able to fully analyze all of our proposals that this board sent forward. And so what finance said to us was, because the proposition passed in November, and basically you got to close down the budget in December, that they're going to need a little bit more time to consider what additional projects will be able to be considered for the budget for next year. What they came back with was the additional 4 projects, and I've laid them out here, the exact projects. They're still sticking to their opinion that we need to be focusing on more health and safety projects. And so this summer and fall, we'll continue to work with the administration on how we can better align what we're requesting of them with how we've traditionally requested projects. And so I think we'll hopefully come to a more consistent way of evaluating projects, but that's something that's going to be kind of a give and take this summer and fall. Finally, there were some minor changes to the guided pathways language in many ways to address some of the concerns brought up by the legislature. Both the Senate and the Assembly brought up concerns around accountability, around clarifying what these funds could be used for, what role our Chancellor's office would have in here, and to make sure that there was robust consideration for performance outcomes in there. And so the trailer bill language delineates most of these. And so while I'm sure the legislature will still want to have see some changes there, I think the early indication that we've heard is that more or less this addresses what concerns they had. So finally, we think this was a good governor's budget to start with, and we appreciate that the administration has listened to the concerns of this board and the constituencies that make up our system. And I think we've gone from a really good budget to a great budget, and there are a few things that are still outstanding that I would probably have not expected the governor to fund. This governor believes in wholeheartedly in subsidiarity, that by giving base resources that the colleges are going to do what's best for their students, and we support that too. But we're also going to be looking to work with the legislature to fund some other key priorities. And I think those 2 this year that I think we have the best chance of making good on are going to be part-time faculty categorical programs and then also veterans resource centers. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Rodriguez. I have Board Member Sumner. Go ahead.
I'm just really glad. I mean, I hate to see that it's the last statement at the very end, the little veteran word is there. I mean, it sort of saddens me, but I mean, I understand the process. But once again, I love the professional development, but when you look at the sheet that you gave us, And you're looking at the VRCs, the campus safety, mental health, student needs. I mean, this is just so important for our students right now. And the safety, when you look at what's happening out there as far as threat levels and everything. And once again, our emergency operations plans and things we need to look at. But I appreciate the letter from the Chancellor supporting the veterans. And I've seen some of the other letters are out there. But we have to keep, pounding at that door, because there's no reason when students go back to school in September that there isn't some money that we can say, yes, there's money, instead of taking it from Student Success or somewhere. That's not right. It should not see a zero that there's nothing funded for veterans.
Agreed. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the board? Board Member Avalos.
I just got a quick question. So I'm looking for a summary. So where are we in terms of what's the total budget for community colleges in 2017-18?
The total Proposition 98 budget for community colleges is $8.565 billion.
8.56.
Yeah.
And is that, how much more is it than last year? Do you know?
From the prior year, it's 141 million.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
Actually, let me change that. That was the difference between the governor's budget and the May revision. From last year, it was 8.242. So,
All right, if there are no questions, we're going to jump to item. Whoa. We have some public comment? Okay, one moment. Go ahead, Vice President Epstein.
Jonathan Lightman.
Thank you, President Estolano, Chancellor Oakley, members of the Board of Governors. Jonathan Lightman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges, and a big thank you to Vice Chancellor Mario Rodriguez for his hard work. Our board met on Friday. We want to convey to you that we do support the $160 million increase to the base. FAC has been advocating a substantial increase to the base for the past 3 years, and we believe that this will stabilize funding at the local level and allow for a conversation on local needs, whether it be faculty, staff, or PERS and STIRS. I received an email parenthetically that said the last governor to provide as large of a base increase in unallocated resources was George Deukmejian, and I'm not sure if that is true or not, but that was a time where we did see a tremendous increase to our colleges, and it was actually a fairly robust time towards the end. FAC also supports redirecting $10 million from the ongoing portion of the deferred maintenance and instructional equipment for part-time faculty concerns. So understand that money has been presented to you as one time, but there is a portion that actually comes from an ongoing source. That is the money that we would advocate to move to part-time faculty. And we take a flexible approach in terms of using the money for office hours, health benefits, and pay equity. We continue to support the concept of funding the VRCs and statewide student service programs like EOPS, and we would certainly want to engage in the legislature in those conversations. In terms of mental health, and Member Sumner brought this up, that there are ongoing conversations in terms of redirecting some of those Prop 63 funds to mental health services across the segments, and we consider that to be an extreme priority. So as much as I'm speaking in favor of local funding, I do want to impress upon you that this board continues to need to exercise leadership from a statewide level on achieving 75% goal for credit classroom instruction taught by full-time faculty, as well as equity and other support for part-time faculty and for non-credit. We have made a lot of promises to the legislature over the last few years relative to student success, and we continue to do so vis-a-vis pathways. This has to be folded into that conversation if we are going to achieve the results that we are promising. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Are there any other comments from the board or questions? If not, let's move on to item 4.6, compliance with the 50% law. I think Vice Chancellor Rodriguez is going to do that one as well.
Thank you. I'll walk you through pages 85, 86, 87 on the agenda, or on the board packet. 50% law is something that's very well known in our system. It's essentially that on an annual basis, community college districts have to spend 50% or half of their current expense of education on the salaries and benefits of classroom instructors. Now, if you look at page 86, it will delineate bullet points what's already contained in statute and regulations, and we also provide administrative guidance, and also we audit these figures of what is included in that denominator. We have a worksheet that's in our annual financial statement that we require colleges to fill out that lists out all these, but generally speaking, here's a rough kind of snapshot of what is included in the 50% calculation. Now, what happens is if there are districts that fall short of meeting that 50% law requirement, obviously the fiscal year has to end. And so the district we're talking about now is the San Mateo Community College District. So if you look at page 87, it'll walk you through kind of a timeline of where we're at. So the year that they were deficient was the 15-16 fiscal year. In 16-17, they have a choice of coming back to us and providing an exemption, and also discussing with us a plan of how they will mitigate or remedy that deficiency. And then in 17-18 is the year where they would typically, or generally speaking, remedy that situation. So if they're short below the 50% threshold, they would make up for it in the next fiscal year after they develop a plan. And in the final fourth year, we would evaluate if they actually made up for the difference. And if they did, that's great. And if not, we would reduce their apportionment. And that's how it works with the normal districts. The districts that the state funds their apportionment entitlement. So keep in mind, every district throughout the state has an apportionment entitlement based on the number of students they served, and this kind of it kind of builds off each other from year to year. It's funded primarily through three ways. One is local property tax, the second is student fees, and the third is general fund. There are 6 districts in the state that receive 0 general fund from us. So the technical term for them is excess tax school entity. We adopt the K-12 nomenclature and just call them basic aid districts. So those districts, we actually don't provide them any state resources to fund their apportionment entitlement. So it makes things a little different. This is not like a normal district. Because of that, we're beginning to work with the district. We've sent them a letter that more or less lays this process out. But there's really no recourse if the district never came into compliance, because there's 0 general fund that we provide them for their apportionment item. So this is an option. This is a requirement that we come to the board and talk about if there's a district, whether they're a basic aid district or whether they're a traditionally state-funded district, that they fell below this threshold. And so that's what the item is for today. And so as this thing progresses, as this issue plays itself out, we'll continue to update the board. If the district is short again next year, we'll bring that to your attention as well as any other district that might be short. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards? No. Okay. Board Member Haynes.
So can you, for those 6 districts that fall outside of, that fall within the basic aid district, so tell me why someone would voluntarily in this group comply. Why would they comply?
There's probably a few reasons. One of them is because they think it is in line with their goals of their district. Another one is there's possibly some recourse locally that is not desired. So it's probably one of those two. It's just either they think that they believe locally that this is the best thing for where their community's at right now for their college community, and then also there's political ramifications locally as well. So
Can you speak to the political? I'm really sort of lost in what would move a district to, especially if they're close to the 50. I mean, what moves them to? What's the political implications? I guess.
and just so we're on the same page, what I was answering is that what would compel them to be over the 50% law if there was no recourse of us taking dollars from them, right? And so politically, I was thinking that, the thought would be that if locally they, if there was ultimately this is a salary issue, right? And so if the district is not meeting its 50% law requirement, then I think there would be discussions locally about, well, either we're not meeting it because we're not providing the appropriate amount of instruction, or we're not paying the instructors we have enough. And so they'd have to answer one of those two questions. And those are just vague generalizations, and every district is going to be, like everything else we do on this board, there's 72 very complex answers to every one question, but generally speaking, it's going to be one of those two things.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, and I have no speaker cards, so thank you for informing us of the status, and then as it resolves, we look forward to a future report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the regular order of the agenda. That will take us to item 4.4, updating faculty minimum qualifications to enlarge the hiring pool. Vice Chancellor Walker. And Vice Chancellor. It's the group. Okay. All right.
Okay, President
away.
Castellano, members of the board, Chancellor Oakley, we're delighted to be here with Pam Walker and Julie Bruno to give you an update on work in progress around addressing the minimum qualifications to enlarge CTE hiring pool. If you remember, amongst the 25 recommendations of the Strong Workforce Task Force, there were 2 that were focused on increasing the pool of qualified CTE instructors by addressing faculty recruitment and hiring practices, as well as one that called for recognizing industry professionals who needed to bring currency of information and skills into the classroom, and how do we better do that. So as a result, through the collaboration, there was a CTE minimum quals advisory work group formed. There were 6 academic senate representatives on that body, and in addition, there was a field survey to understand what were the issues being experienced. And the surveys indicated there was a need for CTE programs to have a little bit more flexibility in recruiting, hiring of industry experts. But there was also great unevenness in understanding how to apply the equivalency process that currently exists. So I want to turn it over to Pam Walker first.
Because I can apply the unevenness in such a way that you'll all be able to understand it. 72 districts, which means 72 different HR departments. And the significance of change that happens in our system doesn't always remind people that when AB 1725, 27 years ago, came to life, lots of people took a lot of time and tried to figure out how to do this work. And so many people were hired over the years, and potentially some of those people were not hired completely accurately, but we've had some very good faculty teaching in CTE. All the change that's gone on would tell you that we need to go back and talk about practices again. And in some ways, without making Julie mad at me, I would echo what the Chancellor talked about with curriculum. You know, how do we make things more robust and do this as appropriately as we can, but also we need to stay in the weeds a little bit to make sure we don't do anything wrong via HR, and that we have faculty who are faculty who are faculty. Everybody's the same. So we talked a lot in this work group about formulating practices and policies and activities to clarify, of course, what the barriers are, and then clarify with the HR departments what equivalency is, because it can be on one end of the state it's one way, and on the other end of the state it's a different way. So we put together some papers, and hopefully that'll start the process in this equivalency. As a dean many years ago, I hired someone to teach anatomy and physiology, and my faculty said, that guy cannot teach that course. He was a chiropractor. He knew anatomy and physiology about as well as anyone, and teaches full-time in one of the local colleges and has been an outstanding colleague. The same thing when I was in the diesel department last week at American River College, and talking to those faculty, they started with 18 units of AA degree applicable courses, and the chair of that department will get he has gotten his master's degree and will be the keynote speaker at the American River College graduation. So one of the things we need to do is be more nimble in the way we do this, but to follow the rules. And I'm giving the rules to Julie.
She always does that. So good afternoon. So this task force actually has been really terrific in the sense that it's brought together all the different perspectives that we need at the table. We've got the faculty expertise, but we also have the CIOs and the deans and our CTE folks in particular because of the needs of those particular programs. So the task force has really done some good work, and we're going to continue that work. The Academic Senate also has recognized the need for some nimbleness as well, and so we've been putting some things in place. We have changed the discipline list process to be a one-year process. Years ago, it was a 3-year, and then we moved it down to 2, and so now you're going to see those changes yearly to make sure that we're keeping up to pace with the changes in industry that are happening out there. So we've got that flexibility. We also have been doing with this group, with this task force, we've been doing some regional trainings. We also do direct technical assistance for our colleges. So we'll send out teams to really talk about what their process is and how it can be improved, and that's been really sort of a targeted kind of let's get it done sort of process. We've also completed a complete research of all processes in all 113 colleges and 72 districts. We've looked at the way that they're applying their equivalency process. So we actually went through and did all of that work, and we've pulled it all together. And so the next step now is going to be culling not only best practices, but then also going in and doing some more technical assistance for those colleges that may be a little sideways on what they're doing or a little too narrowly, they may have interpreted things a little bit too narrowly, which has not provided the flexibility that they need to hire. So that's going to be the next step, and again, we're starting that this spring. We've also passed some resolutions to start looking at disciplines and subdisciplines to see if there's some flexibility there that we need to create, as well as internships to get folks in who may have the technical experience but don't have the more holistic piece of education that we need for them to be very effective credit instructors in our colleges. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire, and we're really thrilled that we're taking everyone with us. And hopefully by the end of this next year, we'll have all 113 colleges in really good places. The other thing I'm going to just note that the EEO and Diversity Committee for the Chancellor's Office has also done some really excellent work in making sure that we have processes and policies in place that allow us to do a wide recruitment for a very diverse pool of faculty as well. So I think all of these efforts are hopefully going to come together into fruition, and we'll be in really good shape by the end of the year.
And just a couple of other things. We have drafted and noodled around some, that's not a real professional word, but we've talked about it a lot, work around single course equivalency. And that has gotten us in trouble over the years. And so Julie and David and others have had to go and help some colleges that 20 years ago put a single course equivalency into a college process. And then somewhere along the way, someone forgot that person only could teach that class, wasn't really legal anyway, and let them started to teach other classes. And then all of a sudden a new president, a new vice president come to the college, and they get an accreditation issue. And so they've had to go in and try to work with them. So remember, when we are trying to sort out something, if we don't do it legally to start, we can get ourselves in trouble a little further down the way. So, and the other part is, when we hire faculty, we don't ask them just to be content experts in their field. We ask them to do all this other work that they need to do around governance and governance in particular, around our participatory governance, in curriculum development, and all the other things that they have to do. So while we find someone who's very good in a particular subject, we need to develop that person for a 25-year or 30-year career as a colleague. And so all this work is helping us get to that place, I hope.
Okay. Any questions? We do have a comment. Okay.
Sharon Vogel.
Sharon Vogel, Butte College nursing faculty, proud CTE faculty. When I first looked at that and saw that the task force only had 6 faculty on it, I thought, well, we should have had more. But I know Julie was there to defend us proudly. I very much agree that CTE faculty should go through the same hiring process that GE faculty go through, and the same scrutiny and the same high standards. But it is very true that each campus has sort of gone its own way regarding their equivalency process, or not having one at all, which is also very famed. But when we hire CTE faculty, I just want us to remember that it goes way beyond industry expertise. It also needs, they know how to teach, and they don't get that. And so they may be the best industry expert there is, but if they can't teach, that's not going to do my students any good. And I've lived through that experience as a nursing faculty. And I want to also commend Pam. It is a much broader role. It's not just walking in the door and showing them how to hook 2 wires together. It is that fuller faculty role that is much more widespread on our campus. I don't want, as CTE faculty for many years, we were off in the corner of the field. We weren't even connected to the campus. We'd see each other one day a semester when the president spoke to us. That's not the way we should be. And I don't want those faculty coming on and thinking all they have to do is show up in the auto shop and never have to leave. I want them to recognize that broader role. And having been one of those colleges that lived through some of those horrendous single course equivalencies, which were very bad, and had to fix them, I encourage that. I encourage us to be very careful with how we utilize those to try to recruit more CTE faculty. I think there's a way we can do this, but I urge caution. I do not want faculty own minimum quals. We know what we need to have quality faculty in the classroom. I urge that we do not drop that standard just because we need something desperately in there. We need quality in there, not just a warm body. So thank you.
Okay, questions from the board? I have Board Member Belansky, followed by Board Member Shaw, Board Member Fahn.
When you did the regional workshops, were there PowerPoints, handouts? Is it possible to get those?
Yes,
I think it would be helpful to see what kind of information was presented in the field regarding this topic. It also says at the very end that about doing a white paper. Has the white paper occurred yet?
We're working on it. Yeah.
And then we would get that.
Absolutely.
Because it will be important to see what has been shared with the field, what kind of information. Yeah, thank you.
Board Member Shaw.
Can you help me to understand? Well, let me back up and say, in response to the last speaker, I've often had teachers who are certified teachers who didn't know how to teach. So I don't know how you're going to.
Not in one of our community colleges.
No, at SC. No, that's a. No, I'm a graduate.
Pay attention to that, Mr. Khan.
And actually, I was an adjunct at SC, so maybe I was one of them. But So I'm trying to find out. You're looking for full-time teachers who are coming out of the industry to teach. But what if I'm just someone who wants to come in for 2 or 3 years? I don't. Is that possible?
So so if you are an industry expert and you would like to possibly teach on one of our campuses, one of the things that's happened in the past is that with our HR processes in equivalency, we might not be able, the particular college might not be able to see that your work experiences are equivalent to the position that is needed. We're trying to help in this work, help them understand that industry experience does play out quite significantly in being able to understand the subject matter. And then we also believe that all colleges, because these are academic environments, no matter what course they are, should have some academic coursework, which could be CTE coursework as well, but some academic coursework that would reflect on the kind of teaching that someone might do. And yes, they might not be a very good teacher, but we have all these other things on our campuses, these other professional development opportunities where someone who wants to teach 2 or 3 years could actually take the opportunity to work with the faculty senate, work with the professional development on their campus, and figure out how to put together a syllabus, understand a student learning outcome. It's not easy to just walk in and start doing that. So that's, we're trying to do this in as an enhanced way as we can, and when you get everybody together, you realize that nothing's very enhanced. It's very weedy and to move this agenda along, but we believe we'll have a white paper and help the HR departments at least look at the equivalency process in a much more robust way.
And I think I mentioned that because I think probably a lot of your best teachers or instructors will come from that group. Some people who don't want to come in for 25 years, but want to come for 3 years. So, okay.
So just to follow up, one of the things that we are looking at are mentoring programs for just those professionals that are coming back and they want to come into the classroom and they want to teach. They may want to teach one class a semester. They want to give back in that way. And so if they come with the expertise, but they don't have the teaching, we can actually pair them up and do some mentoring that way. And I think that will go a long way. The other thing that we have to be sort of really cognizant of the fact that there is a difference between training and educating, and Pam sort of touched in on it. That training is showing somebody how to do a skill, but educating is really that broader conversation, and we want to make sure that our faculty, when they're teaching those college credit courses, they're bringing that component of education, which means that they've had some level of education as well. And so we want to make sure that we've got all of those components for our faculty when they're with our students, because it's not just about that one job. We want to make sure that they will be lifelong learners who can continually come back and get the education that they need to continue on their career path.
Thank you.
Okay, I have board member Fun.
Quick observation. Identifying the faculty for certain CTE programs, I can sense is pretty a challenge. I know that right now in certain programs, to be qualified to teach, you have to have a master's degree. In lower, it would be a BA degree with some relevant coursework or experience. Have you or has the task force determined whether a BA degree is the lowest you would go, or an AA degree, or has that been determined?
Well, yeah.
So CTE, many CTE programs actually, it's an associate degree plus years of experience. And then some are a bachelor's degree plus years of experience, and then master's level for certain disciplines. So the disciplines list actually lists all those different different categories.
And I think my other observation pertains to what you were saying in education or faculty development. We all know that a certain person could be very good at his or her trade, but when it comes to teaching in the classroom, pedagogy is really, at the end of the day, the most important thing. So I wonder, in your education or faculty development, are you subjecting the candidate or the person to be hired through a required faculty development for the first semester or the first year or things like that?
That's really very campus specific or college specific, but many of our colleges do have programs, new faculty programs, mentorships, faculty development programs, teaching programs. So it really depends. Some folks come out of their education, like I did from San Francisco State, with teaching experience that's built into your grad program, but others don't. So we really try to make sure, and I think a lot of colleges are really beginning to have this conversation because we want to make sure that they don't have just the knowledge and skill, but they can also translate that to our students, and that's what the pedagogy is all about.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're looking at all of those. Again, best practices, sharing what we're doing across the state.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions by the other members of the board? I have a few. So I wasn't just working, well, I was actually looking up your white paper. If you guys saw me looking at my computer, it references the faculty's, the faculty senate's, I'm sorry, the academic senate's white paper, equivalency to the minimum qualifications, and it's worth reading. It's only 34 pages long. It's concise. You guys always do a great job on your white papers. So a few things. You know my interest in CTE. I also know how difficult it is to recruit folks for these ever-evolving, quickly changing fields. So I was struck by, on page 54, you all were talking about types of activities to achieve the recommendations include the development of pipelines to recruit community college faculty with industry experience through collaborations with higher education, business, and industry professional organizations. Another potential strategy, and you mentioned this, Julie, is the creation of a mentorship model that provides pathways for industry professionals to intern at colleges to gain teaching skills, knowledge, and experience while pursuing an associate degree or an equivalent. And are there models of that now? And who does this well, and in what fields is this working? I mean, you guys have any examples you can provide?
I hate to use the Los Rios district, but they have a hiring.
Where's that?
Down the road here. They have a diversity hiring mentorship program, and so if I think of my career was in education, so I have a teaching credential. I have a colleague who was an economist, and his career was not in education, and so he was partnered in a diversity hiring and worked through that. And as a CTE person who was spent 25 years in the field of diesel mechanics. We partnered that person with a teaching faculty member of some years, and he developed a significant sense, and then he developed that next program in CTE. So I would say that that's one that I am aware of, but I think across the state, I know Moore Park does a really fine job in first year faculty preparation, and that's CTE and Gen Ed faculty. So I think we see a little of that across the state in our professional development, and we could probably add that into the work of our white paper as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm struck is, and what we always personalize this to the experiences we know, right? And I remember some of the tours I've taken in Southern California in particular of advanced manufacturing, aircraft fasteners, basically CNC machinists. And these are typically older gentlemen, older guys. I don't know if they have BAs or whatever. Excuse me? Yeah. They don't have degrees. That's my point. And it's interesting because we're going to be losing their expertise if we haven't already quite quickly. And so just a suggestion, I wouldn't call them an intern. I think I think there's a term you talk about, it's not excellence, but something about expertise. You had a different term for it in your white paper. These are senior people who are very skilled, and it makes sense to pair them. I like the way you talked about that, Pam, about they're in a partnership, because maybe what they do is for a year team teach. They're teaching the skills part, but they're getting to watch the pedagogy part with their team teacher. And it's an investment, but it's absolutely worth it. And these are folks who want to give back. And interestingly enough, in the Senate Rules Committee meeting we just had with Senator Leyva, she was mentioning her interest in that in particular, in terms of mechanics and folks in the Inland Empire. So I just think something to the way we do this, and Vaughn, you're the biggest proponent, is regional, right? So I think our advice to the field has to be, you want to capture those resources, those assets now, and give some flexibility for the regions to work it out, but to also have respect for the people's expertise in those fields. So I was just a little struck by the term intern. This is something that we have to solve if we're going to achieve any of our 25 recommendations of the Strong Workforce Task Force. And looking at the work group composition, so we have 16 members, 6 from the Academic Senate, 5 from the Chancellor's Office, 1 from this is an association I didn't know before, the California Community College Association for Occupational Education. Is that like the CTE Faculty Association? The deans? Okay, that's what that is. Okay. Because what's lacking here, and I think I understand it, but I just want to make sure that like industry is at the table in one way or the other. Because on a regional level, industry is going to understand where are those gaps, where are those critical skills going to be lost if we don't get folks quickly trained in those fields, if we don't capture that knowledge and pull it into the classroom or pull it into the shop, whatever we want to call it. So I don't know if the task force intends to do outreach or regional meetings, but it might be something to consider in collaboration with the regional strategies. Maybe just hit a few regions, but I do think that would be worthwhile so that the industry reps can be at the table, even if for nothing else to check the terminology. If you don't call them intern, what would appeal to a 62-year-old gentleman who's been working in this field? It's going to draw them in with appropriate deference to their expertise. Eminence, that was the word that's used in your white paper. Eminence. I thought that was a really great term. And so there's a way to appreciate that eminence and bring it into the classroom because the students will benefit. But I do not discredit the importance of pedagogy. I understand the importance of teaching, but I also know that there is something about the fire of somebody that's worked in this their whole lives and how they can light a fire in students by showing them the amazing ability to make something. And you cannot substitute that with anything. So that's my lecture for today. Any other comments or questions by any of the board members? We have Board Member Sumner and Board Member Shaw.
Just to sort of add to that, like with the CTEs, for example, I know the nursing programs, when the challenges they have of getting facilities to have them for the students and a lot of these CTEs so they can go and get the expertise, where somehow you can get these companies, these organizations there'd probably be somebody at those organizations that might want to teach or do something, say, it's like a benefit to them to say, hey, you could learn how to teach, we can come there, you can come and teach, it benefits them, it's more about the community. Once again, it's back to the community involvement, reaching into the trenches, but I know nursing, especially up here, you guys have challenges. You can't get the nurses into the hospitals to learn properly, and it's not only nursing, but others, but CTE. So I don't know. I mean, from what I hear, a lot of people would love to teach, but they say, well, I don't know how to teach. I've never given the opportunity. And I think we need to put it out there more to say, hey, these are some great opportunities, adult education or whatever, to say, hey, come back, give your expertise back as people are getting ready to retire. That's street smart, and that makes a huge difference, and you can't get that anywhere else.
All right, if there are no further questions, yes.
Just one more comment. I think you both are absolutely right. What I really love about the dynamic of team teaching is that it assumes that both are there to learn, right, from each other. And I think if we could utilize that more frequently in our colleges, it actually will benefit our students dramatically. So it is one of the models that we really have been. It's resource heavy.
Yes, it
but
is.
I think it pays off in spades down the line. So yeah, we're absolutely right there with you.
Great.
So, thanks.
Well, thank you, all three of you, and thank you for the work group that's going to be working expeditiously over the next several months. Thank you. Okay, powering through. We're on items 4.5, state and federal legislative update. Vice Chancellor Mattoon, thank you for getting me through the Senate Rules Committee. You have the floor.
Think I'd have that down by now, third meeting. Good afternoon, I'm Laura Mattoon, I'm Vice Chancellor of Governmental Relations. Today I've invited my colleague Justin Selnick to join me as we're preparing our federal Governmental Relations Department. Justin's been kind enough to step up in my unit and do a lot of oversight of what's happening at the federal level. So I'll do a brief update on the state side, and then Justin's going to provide an update on the federal side. On the state legislative side, last Friday marked a pretty major milestone for the legislature. It was the deadline for bills to get out of their first policy committee. We have had a few bills drop off at that deadline. In fact, if you look in your bill matrix, starting on page 6, we've created a new line called 2-year bills tracked by our office. What this means is that the author has decided not to pursue these bills for this year. They'll have another chance next January to revive the bill. Most authors don't, but there is that opportunity, and therefore we'll leave these on the matrix until we know for sure. We have about 2 weeks until the next major deadline.
Page 81.
Oh, my apologies. We have about 2 weeks until the next major deadline. Next Friday, the Appropriations Committee in each house will either hold or move forward all bills that cost above $150,000. And then following that deadline, we have the legislative deadline of June 2nd for bills to pass out of the House of Origin. So I was just going to talk about a couple of areas that have been high priorities for the legislature that we're focused on. The first is college affordability. There's a number of bills that we're actively supporting in this arena. The first is AB 370 by Assemblymember Rodriguez. Under current law, the Student Aid Commission can issue up to 25,750 new competitive Cal Grants each year. Over 300,000 qualified applicants apply for that pool of grants. Clearly, there's a lot of unmet need in this grant application, in this grant pool, and therefore it's really vital that we use every single one of those almost 26,000 awards. Because the Student Aid Commission is prohibited to go over that cap, it's really hard for them to get to the cap, right? They offer awards and some people take them and some people don't. It's really hard to hit that target perfectly. So what this bill would do is create a rolling average where the commission would have the authority to go over in some years and make up for it in other years in order to make sure that every one of those grants are getting in the hands of students. Our long-term goal is to increase the number of competitive Cal Grants available to our students. Most of our students are, in order to get a Cal Grant Entitlement Award, you have to apply for that award either in your senior year of high school or the year immediately following. And that's just not the primary population that we serve, so those students fall into this competitive pool. So our long-term goal is to increase the number of competitive grants available to our students, but in the short term, just making sure that those grants that are available are placed into the hands of students is a really important step forward. I also wanted to mention AB 1037 by Assemblymember Limon. This bill would create a state-funded community service and volunteer work program for DREAM Act recipients. It's modeled on the Federal Work Study program. Because DREAM Act recipients are not eligible to participate in that program, it would create a state-funded program for that purpose. Students would complete about 300 hours of community service and then receive an award of $3,000 annually. The bill's pending on the Assembly suspense file because of the costs associated, but we are in support. And then in the area of affordability, the final 2 bills I'll mention are AB 1563 by Assemblymember Medina and SB 15 by Senator Leyva. The Cal Grant C program is an important program for our CTE students, but right now they only get a $547 award in that program. These 2 bills would increase the amount of that access award to help them cover things like books, transportation, and housing to $3,000, and it would also simplify the process for students applying for those awards. I want to mention, the reason I mentioned these bills is because there's a common theme here, and our common theme is that these bills all take money from the general fund to provide additional financial aid to our students. This is a really important conversation for us to have because while we serve 2/3 of the student population, under the current Cal Grant program, we only get 6% of those dollars that are made available. This is mostly because Cal Grants are focused on fees. So because we're a low-cost system and low-fee system, as well as the BOG fee waiver covers our low-income students, we end up not accessing as much of the Cal Grant program dollars as we should. I wanted to highlight that this is an area where we've come together as a coalition with faculty, with students, and with CEOs and trustees to lobby the legislature to try and push for increases in Cal Grant funding available to our students. And I also wanted to give some recognition to the Student Senate, who this past weekend, or 2 weekends ago, held their General Assembly and had a postcard campaign. And I wish I'd had a postcard, but we delivered them all to the legislature. But essentially, they looked like this. 1,500 students from around the state completed these postcards asking for an increase in competitive Cal Grants to be made available to students in the budget process. Yeah, just commending Courtney Cooper, the president of the Student Senate, for her work on that. And then I just also wanted to mention that there's a number of bills moving forward on student equity that we're supporting. AB 504 and AB 634 by Assemblymember Medina would implement a recommendation from the Legislative Analyst's Office that the Chancellor's Office establish a standard methodology for measuring disproportionate impact on each of the student groups that's outlined in the equity statutes. Assembly Bill 1018 by Assemblymember Reyes would add homeless students to the list of students for which a disproportionate impact should be studied in equity plans. And then AB 1468 by Assemblymember Chu would allow colleges to use equity funding to provide emergency financial assistance to student populations identified in equity plans, as long as that emergency funding is aligned with their overall strategy in terms of equity. We're supportive of all the bills, and we're working with the authors on clarifying amendments in each of those. And then finally, just a quick update on AB 705, which is a bill I mentioned a couple of meetings ago. This bill would require colleges to use high school performance as a primary factor in determining assessment and placement of students. This bill's moving forward. We have been working closely with the author's office on amendments to make sure that colleges have flexibility for student populations for whom high school performance might not be the best indicator. They've agreed to amendments, and we're hoping to move towards a support position on that bill. With that, I'll turn it over to Justin to provide a federal update.
Maybe we can stop there. Let's ask some questions about the state before we get to Justin. Okay, Board Member Khan?
Just very briefly, what were the suggested amendments for AB 705?
Sure. So the amendments that most recently went into the bill clarified that a college should use high school performance, or if that's inappropriate for that student population, they could use other factors such as guided self-placement or self-reported information. And then the amendments that we're seeking would clarify that this body has the authority to provide further clarification to districts and how those measures should be used. Any guidance that we would provide should be based in this overall goal that assessment and placement policies should be geared to maximize the chances of a student getting through transfer level math and English within 1 year.
Yeah. Board Member Belansky. Yes.
With regard to AB 705, if that were to go forward, because I do know counselors appreciate this method, how would they make it that it would be the access to the high school transcripts, because that tends to be the issue. And maybe you don't have an answer, but that would have to be dealt with, how to give the districts access to the high school transcripts to use it for that purpose. And I'm just curious, on page 64, there's SB 577, which is about teacher credentialing programs in community colleges, and it says the position is a position of concern.
So on your first question, we have some...
and then I have one more.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Part of the reason for the amendments to AB 705 to clarify that you could use a student's self-reported information or guided self-placement was in recognition that there would be times in which a high school transcript is not easily obtainable. But also the work that we're doing is to try and use the College Guidance Initiative as well as CalPass Plus so that districts can have access to that information as quickly as possible. And we've also been having a conversation with the State Board of Education about whether or not there's a way for us at the system level to share this information.
Right.
We're not sure we figured that out yet, but it is an ongoing conversation. On your second question on SB 577, concern is probably a little bit strong of a word. What we did was send a letter with an update of where we are currently in terms of the baccalaureate pilot, and then raise some questions about how this would operate and what need this is trying to solve.
The teacher credentialing.
Yes. And generally our position has been on expansion of scope, has been to try and figure out if there's another way within the confines of the master plan to meet those goals, as well as strongly support the existing baccalaureate degree pilots. Once we know that those are working, then it's probably appropriate for us to evaluate expansion of those.
Because I noticed with SB 769, you also listed as a concern to move from 15 baccalaureate programs to 25 in the community colleges.
For the same reason, and just on SB 769, our letter does say that we would support changing the sunset date in the current law. What we've been hearing from districts is that there's some concern among students that they'll run up to that sunset date and not know if they can finish their program. So our position is it seems appropriate to address this issue in a bill this year. The LAO is going to come back next year with a review of the existing baccalaureate pilots. Once we have that review from the LAO, it's probably appropriate for this body to have another conversation about expansion.
Okay.
Okay, I have, board member, Epstein.
I thought that Joseph asked about SB 577. Is that also part of the baccalaureate?
No, this is a post-baccalaureate teaching credential is the authority that this would provide.
What's the rationale for our
Just the idea that this is an area in which we are just delving into doing a baccalaureate degree, and whether or not, if we know, we should find out if a baccalaureate degree works, maybe before we consider expanding into a post-baccalaureate credential. The other thing we've said to the author on this bill is that we're looking at partnership with Western Governors University, which has a teaching credential program. We're also looking at whether or not we can partner with CSUs on specific campuses where there's not access in that local community so that the CSU can come on and offer the program. So those are the alternative solutions that we might reach before going towards the new degree program.
Okay, I guess I didn't understand that 577 is only about post-baccalaureate
Yeah,
credentialing?
yes.
Okay, I didn't, sorry.
Board member Avalos, followed by board member Haynes.
Thanks. So I'm trying to figure out bills that start with ACR. What's that stand for? And
Concurrent resolution.
concurs. And what's the status with ACR 32 Medina? Do you know what that is when it talks about community and it says faculty?
Oh, go ahead.
ACR 32, that is in the Appropriations Committee right now, and I believe they put it in suspense for the time being. I would ask the Chancellor's office to convene a group to discuss full-time faculty, like how we can achieve the full-time faculty across the system.
Board member Haynes.
Thank you. So I'm back to 705. And so I have two questions. One, in your summary of the bill, it said that the bill would prohibit a student from being required to enroll in remedial coursework that lengthens their time to complete a degree unless research shows that they are highly unlikely to succeed. So is that before they register into a class? What does research sort of mean if you don't have, I guess, the transcripts? What is that?
This language is similar to language that we currently have in existing regulations that dictates when you can and should put a prerequisite on a course and when you shouldn't. And right now it's drafted in a way that requires that a prerequisite goes into place when a student's highly unlikely to succeed in that required course. So I think that what they were trying to do was copy over this principle into the statute from our existing regulations. And then I would just note that there has been a question that we worked out with them on what research shows means, and what they've clarified is they mean research regarding the use of when it's appropriate to use high school performance as an indicator. So if you've done research that shows that it is no longer appropriate to use that information for a student population, then you can look to another.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question goes to, I sort of see this as a multiple measures, the use of it. So how does that dovetail, or does it not dovetail into the work we're doing system-wide on multiple measures? I mean, does it complement? Is it duplicative? Is it not as strong? Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I think it works really nicely with the work that's currently happening on the multiple measures assessment pilot projects. I do believe that the colleges that are currently using that model would comply with the scope of this bill. So I think that the effort here on the part of the author is to ensure more colleges work in that direction.
So it's requiring all colleges to, once this is law, it
would require all colleges.
It pushes us all
yes.
to do this. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe we have a couple of comment cards, I think, on the state items. We will get to you, Justin, I promise.
Jonathan Lightman and Julie Bruno.
Thank you, Jonathan Lightman, on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. FAC is the sponsor of Assembly Concurrent Resolution 32. I'm actually the one that drafted it. What this measure does is it's a non-binding measure. If it were approved through the process, it would not go to the governor. And it would request the Chancellor's office to provide system-level leadership to achieve the longstanding goal that was established by this board of 75% credit classroom instruction taught by full-time faculty, as well as another goal of this board to provide equity for part-time faculty and other support, and then to place on the table the conversation of non-credit faculty, because we have made changes to non-credit in terms of the apportionment, and to question whether our current system is serving in the best interests of students, and if not, can we establish some goals in that direction. I have become the longest running executive director in FAC's history. I've been there for 18 and a half years. I can tell you that it is with untold frustration that we have not been able to make progress on these matters. We have tried various conversations within the Consultation Council, within the legislature, and what invariably happens is that we end up embracing another priority. Now, when you speak with faculty and you ask them, what is it like to actually conduct, for instance, an academic departmental meeting with so few full-time faculty? Or when you say that we have student learning objectives and yet we don't have the full-time faculty there to serve students, or the part-time faculty having to run from not only from college to college, but district to district. And increasingly what we're hearing from part-time faculty is they're telling their students, I don't have office hours at this district, but if you want to see me in an office, drive 40 minutes because I have it at another district. We don't believe that that serves our students at all. And as I had mentioned in the prior testimony, we've made tremendous problems to the legislature in terms of academic achievement based upon the Student Success Initiative, and we're continuing to make promises based on the pathways. We believe that we made a mistake in not integrating these goals.
30 seconds.
Thank you. Into the Student Success Initiative. We think that this is time for a course correction. And what ACR 32, it simply asks you to take these on as statewide goals as they have already been established. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Bruno, Academic Senate. Just regarding AB 705, we actually have been working with the author as well as the Chancellor's office to really sort of make sure that this bill is good for our students. And multiple measures have been required in Title V now for, I think, 10 years, though Pam may remember better. She's older than I am. And so I know she didn't, right? So we're all for multiple measures, and actually we did a survey, the Senate did a survey, and we got back around 72 of our colleges so far. We're still getting information from others, and everybody is using multiple measures in different ways. Most of our folks are using the GPA already in the college, the high school data. We want to make sure that this bill works for all of our students, so that works exceptionally well for the students that come out of high school, but we do have returning students, students that are non-credit, students that are undocumented. There are students where we want to make sure that whatever measure we're using to appropriately place them, we're able to do that for our colleges. So we're really very pleased that the author of the bill has been very open to the conversations, and we visited them just recently. So we're going to keep going and make sure. It is a 10+1 item. It's student success and preparation, so faculty are your experts in this area. history, and we want to make sure that we're representing their perspective well. And so just to also tag on Jonathan's comments, it just strikes me that if we probably had more full-time faculty, then we would also be solving our CTE minimum qualification dilemma as well. I'm just going to throw that in. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, before we go on federal, I do have a question, Vice Chancellor Mattoon. So you talked about, you showed us a postcard, it's very cool, we got 1,500 students to do it. Are we having an impact, because there's been so much talk in the legislature about free community college, or free college, and most of us know that really what we need is more Cal Grant. So I'm just wondering if it's starting to penetrate, or do you have any sense of that? If people are starting to understand the complexities and how we are different than the other systems, and we really need Cal Grant, access to Cal Grant for our students.
So we coordinated lobby visits with that coalition of students and TCAS and faculty that I mentioned earlier last week. And Vice Chancellor Rodriguez joined me for this, and we tried to go deliver that message to the members of the Senate and Assembly budget subcommittees. And I think that the meetings that we had were very positive. They did understand that our low-income students, when you factor in grant aid available, actually have a higher cost of attendance than those at UC and CSU. I think it's a continuous message that we have to send to our members. Free college sounds so, it sounds wonderful, but it's a harder message to figure out what low-income students need to be successful. So I think we just have to keep doing that.
Right, thank you. Okay, Justin, you're on the spotlight.
Thank you. Just wanted to go over a few things that were in the update that we had distributed in the packet that have changed since then. Most notably was on May 5th, the President signed the omnibus spending bill that keeps the federal government funded until September 30th. And in contrast to the March proposal that was mentioned in that update, the news is very positive, at least for now. Most notably, we saw the funding of year-round Pell Grants, which will prove to be a vital tool to our students to get through, to get to their educational goals quicker and get into the workforce. This was one of the priorities that we did lobby for in the February visits to Washington, so very good victory for us there. There will be changes administratively into some of the eligibility requirements on the year-round Pell. We'll see more details on that in July when the Department of Education puts out guidance for that, so we'll have more detail then. And also in this spending deal, where there's some modest increases to the college readiness programs, TRIO and Gear Up, which in that document previously had been targeted for cuts, so another positive outcome there. In the CTE area, workforce development, funding for job training programs under Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, they will remain steady, as well as apprenticeship programs will receive an increase. So another, like I said, another positive outcome in that deal. Also in that packet was an update on the data retrieval tool used by, that the IRS and Department of Education use for FAFSA completion. Well, since then, it's been announced that the tool will be back online for income-based repayment loan borrowers. However, for the FAFSA, that still isn't anticipated until October. And this has been the subject of at least 2 hearings on Capitol Hill, and so there's been a lot of scrutiny put over on IRS and Department of Education officials. So they'll be working. I assume they'll be working as hard as they can to get this up by October. And lastly, a bill that was brought to our attention since that update, dealing with our undocumented students, is HR 1468. By Representative Carlos Corbello from Florida. And 1468 provides immigrants that have been vetted by Homeland Security with 3 pathways towards legalization: higher education, service in the armed forces, or work authorization. Following a 5-year conditional status, these immigrants would be able to reapply for a 5-year permanent status. and this exceeds the 3-year provisional status that's in HR 469, the Bridge Act, which was in that update in front of you. It's also a significant bill because the author is Republican, and there were, at last count, 16 Republican co-authors, and in a House of Representatives that has a Republican majority, this could be a very viable way to help our undocumented students. However, a lot of the advocacy groups that advocate for these students are still reviewing this, so a lot of the details are still being worked out, and we haven't seen where they stand on those. So that's something we'll definitely keep an eye on. So that's all I had for now.
Thank you. Does anybody have any question for Mr. Selmer? I have a question. All that great news that you shared with us came out of the budget deal, right? Is it then similarly at risk in a September budget round? Is it kind of set? Excuse my ignorance on the federal process, but.
Right. Well, the federal process is not only much different from the state process, but it's also changed in the last 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So I think at least for the Pell stuff, that is relatively okay for 17 and 18 because of the way it's distributed throughout the year.
Okay.
So it should be okay. But then again, I think if last year taught us anything, we shouldn't assume anything. But yeah, I think it should remain positive throughout the year.
Well, it's a tremendous victory, so we should all feel really good about that tentatively. Yes, Board Member Baum.
Also on federal policy, are we getting any indications or signals from the Department of Education on its approach to accreditation?
Well, as far as the department goes, their sort of policy on higher education hasn't been, I would say, they haven't said a lot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's been sort of indications that they might be looking at different approaches to accreditation. I know that there was a hearing on Capitol Hill by the Higher Education Subcommittee, and it was more focused, I think, on the for-profit side. And so trying to see how their accreditation status can be maintained or increased as they go through. I mean, I think there's been a lot of, hasn't been a lot of appointments to the department on the higher education side. So we're still looking to see how exactly those are going to pan out and see exactly who they're going to have in charge.
Okay, if there are no more further questions, thank you very much. Okay, we are now at our last item, which is board member reports, and we're going to start. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, public comments. Apologize. What do we have?
Dr. Baruz Farong. Sorry about that.
Okay. And if you're wondering why I have an accent, I learned my English in Utah. That's Utah accent. So anyhow, the reason I am here for 2 reasons. Primarily, I'm president of the National Association of the West Asian Americans, and that's Middle Eastern Americans. There are about 2 million of them in California. And the issue is a lot of the students are complaining that they are having problem and they are being harassed in the community colleges consistently. By the way, I'm not crying. I have an allergy, and that's why I'm wiping my eyes. And I would like your organization, the Chancellor's office here, to issue a resolution and condemn students' harassments in California Community College. The students who are, their origins are from West Asia. It means Iranian Americans, Arab Americans, Turkish Americans, Afghani Americans, and including Armenian Americans, Israeli Americans. These are the West Asian community. And one of the good examples is about 2 years ago, ARC, student government, passed a resolution saying all the Muslim students should be expelled from the ARC. I don't know if you heard about it or not. And that was shocking to me. Nothing happened. And we have made a lot of complaints during the Bryce Harris's chancellorship here, and also when he was chancellor of the Los Rios. It never got any answer. And I think that kind of thing should be condemned. And another issue is our members are complaining about Sierra College. Sierra College has a very serious problem. Many of the West Asians have applied for the position of teaching positions. They've been rejected, although they are highly qualified. And we have filed a complaint with the board members, and the board members, they act like they are the supreme leaders of North Korea, and they don't respond. And they, again, when we come here, you say, well, those board members are independent, and they go complain to them. When we complain to them, they don't respond. I honestly don't know what's your function here. Why do we have this chancellor's office if you are not able to assert your authority on those individual community colleges? I think you better close it up and save taxpayer money. And these are the issues when you talk about the diversity should be diversity this, diversity that, and the diversity is not there. Diversity should be inclusive rather than exclusive. And I want you to pay attention to it. And also, again, going back, I want you to issue a resolution condemn harassment of the West Asian students in the community college. Thank you.
Mr. Frashanki, thank you for talking to us. Thank you.
Julie Bruno.
President Estolano, Chancellor Oakley, board members, hello again. Here I am. Just a few highlights. It's been a really busy couple of months for the Academic Senate. So I wanted to just give you a quick update. We had our plenary session in April. Thank you to Chancellor Oakley and our consultation members who stayed around for a little bit of our session to get a chance to listen to a couple of our premier programs in the system that are serving our students very well, including our DACA and our LGBTQI students. Overall, the session was very well attended and successful. We also completed our non-credit summit. Member Belansky noted that earlier. It was in partnership with the Association of Community and Continuing Education, 3CSN, the Academic Affairs Division, Career Ladders Project, and IEPI. It was a really wonderful, over 200 people were registered, and we had a wait list. This was the first time we've had that level of partnership among those organizations, so we're definitely looking to do it again next year. We also just completed our CTE Leadership Institute in partnership with the Chancellor's Office. Again, a very successful event. We're now looking forward to our Faculty Leadership Institute in June, Curriculum Institute in July, and we're very excited to announce our inaugural part-time faculty Institute in August, where we will be serving our part-time faculty around the professional development needs that they have. The Academic Senate also had its Advocacy Day a couple of weeks ago. I brought you a packet that includes the handouts that we had for legislators and staff, including our strategic plan update from the Academic Senate, our progress on that, our 3 priorities regarding advocacy, including funding for full-time hiring faculty and promoting faculty diversity. We're looking to get sustained, predictable funding for the CID system. It's been grant funded for over 10 years now. We think that it's become such a backbone to everything that we are doing in our system that we really need sustainable funding for that. So we were requesting that, and then support for mental health services and our Veterans Resource Centers also. So our 3 priorities. And also brought you the CID work plan for your perusal. Actually, Member Epstein, this will, that question that you had earlier about what guarantees the portability of curriculum, it's CID. So right there for you. Finally, really exciting news. The community college and the UC faculty are working towards the creation of an Associate of Science degree based on the UC transfer pathways for chemistry and physics. This has been in the works now for quite some time. This collaboration would send a stronger signal than the pathways alone that UC supports transfer pathways and would give our community colleges greater flexibility in preparing our students for certain disciplines. Importantly, they would also provide students seeking to transfer to UC with associate's degree, a very important milestone that pathways alone did not address. So just this past Friday on May 12th, faculty from the two segments met at the UC Office of the President to discuss details and work on the parameters for a pilot program that could facilitate guaranteed admission to UC campus to students completing a physics or chemistry degree with a minimum GPA in pathway courses. So we're really, really thrilled about this, and we're going to be bringing, of course, our Chancellor's Office folks on board and getting this done, and we think it's going to be a really wonderful opportunity for our students, so we're thrilled. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming to the close of another Board of Governors meeting. Okay, so we're going to do board member reports. Let's start on the left. Board Member Vaughn, and you are not obligated to
I was
say
supposed to go
anything,
last, but
anything you
I
want.
will say so.
Please.
Over the past 10 weeks, I was delighted to be able to attend 3 different functions. The first one was in early March by the annual conference by the A2Men group, African American Male in Education Network and Development. The second one was the APAHI, Asian Pacific American in Higher Education. And the third one was more recent, was the Puente project where our Chancellor was honored. And it was personally fascinating to attend these, to immerse myself into these individual network of educators where I was able to hear stories of determination, success, and inspiration by not only students, but faculty, administrators, staff, and advocates in education. And just 10 days ago, I was actually at the annual gathering of the trustees and CEOs in Lake Tahoe and attended for the first time ever a panel that was put on by 4 different caucuses. The APITA, which represented the Asian American folks, as well as the group representing Hispanic and African American and veterans. So they spoke very eloquently of the challenges that students in the respective groups encountered. And what I picked up from that discussion were 3 words: diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think these are the 3 words that are, in my view, the pillars of our community college system. And I think we need to be courageously engaging in issues and topics of diversity, because when we do that, we're able to see the equity gaps that exist. But to address those gaps and to achieve equity requires, I think, the inclusion or the inclusiveness of everybody at the table in the dialogue. So I thought those were 3 very profound words that I gathered from the gathering in Lake Tahoe and wanted to share with you, and also wanted to thank Board President for approving my request to go to those events. Thank you.
Board Member Haynes.
So I was fairly busy. I attended at least first 2 days of the ACCJC annual conference. It was my first time to go to that conference, and I really appreciated being able to attend. I also attended the CCC annual conference and was reelected to another 3-year term, which I am very, very pleased in my service on that board as well. I also attended the Puente reception for Chancellor Oakley, and I chaired, I'm stumbling over that word, chaired the joint State Board of Education, Board of Governors joint CTE Pathways Advisory Committee. It's chock full of a lot of information on both sides that will be helpful as we sort of break down these silos, and so I'm very excited about that work. And the goal is to have something that's tangible at the end, to say these are the top 5 or 10 things that we really need to do in order to break down those silos and to work a lot more collaboratively with our K-12 partners. And then there are two other items. One of them was my my attendance at American River College's expansion building the Veterans Center. And American River College probably has, it's number 6 in the state in terms of how many veterans it serves. And so to have a wonderful facility that they can go to and they can get the services and their needs met is really critical. And to hear that one of the students indicated that he was on our campus in 2002, and at that time there was a cubicle and a little corner that was attributed to vet issues and not much service relative to that. And he didn't stay. But he did come back. He came back about, 5 years ago and he said the difference, the sea change in having a center, having a place to congregate, to get the services you need, made a difference, because when he felt like giving up, there were those there who said, not on my shift, man. You're gonna trudge along. Whatever you need, you're gonna get. And I think that's really critical for many of our students. And there's just two other items. One, Hassan, I wish you all of the luck in the world, and you have to at least tell us what you're doing and how well you're doing, because even though you leave this spot, your impressions and the things that you've said have helped us make really good decisions around students. So let us know how well you're doing. And then finally, this is sort of a request, and I don't know how to present it. We've been working on multiple measures, and we're moving and have been moving in that direction. But we've also, from the Chancellor's office, been working for a number of years on common assessment, which also includes, as I understand it, multiple measures. I'm trying to get an idea, does that go by the wayside? I would hope not, but how will that sort of work relative to multiple measures? And I'm unsure, and there are some folks out there who've been working on that issue, and they're kind of unsure as well. So to the extent that you can share what the plans are, where we're going relative to that would be helpful. And that's the end of my report.
Member Perry.
I would talk about the fact that I've been consumed by an acronym, WWS, but it stands, it's an organization, an event that I do for the organization that I run, but it stands for Wine, Women, and Shoes, and I think it would make me look unduly frivolous in this weighty environment, so I won't dwell on it. What I will talk about is Member Khan, and what a pleasure it's been serving with you. You've been well-spoken, your insights are incisive. You have brought a tremendous amount, I think, to the Board of Governors and the Chancellor's office. So I think you've really been an asset, and you are a tribute to the community colleges, and I think will continue to do so in even bigger ways as you move on from this. So thank you very much.
So on March 31st, the Chancellor and I were in San Jose together. We toured different areas in San Jose. Specifically, we met with the mayor of San Jose and talked about community colleges and what role we can play, a stronger role in the Bay Area, in particular San Jose. We went over to the San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce, same conversation around, where are the opportunities for workspace, working together with the community colleges as a whole, but also the labor markets in the Silicon Valley. And then we went over to an organization called the Foundation for Hispanic Education, where it's an east side of San Jose, and they oversee 3 charter schools, all mostly Latino students, moving forward and trying to have better relationships with that organization, but also the concept of charter schools and some of the challenges they have, moving these students over to the different community colleges. So learned a lot about what some of those challenges were. And then finally, we concluded with a lengthy introduction to the Chancellor, which was amazing. Probably 5 people introduced the Chancellor, and I was one of them, of course. But that concluded with a La Raza Roundtable about 6 o'clock after about a 30-minute intro to the Chancellor, which I've learned a lot during that whole process. So it was good. And then finally, Mr. Khan, thank you very much for serving the past year and a half, 2 years with us. Very insightful. I hope you make the right decision on your next step. Obviously, it's a big choice here, but whatever decision you make, we're behind you, and hopefully we know you'll be successful wherever you go.
Thank you, President Estolano. I've had a couple of opportunities to meet with organizations that want to help the system in its efforts. One recently was with the leadership, Hans Johnson of PPIC and their Higher Education Center. They have offered a lot of resources and research support for what we do, and I know they mentioned the Chancellor's on one of their steering committees, as well as President Estolano and I recently attended the headquarters opening for the Campaign for College Opportunity and a presentation by the Secretary of Education, former Secretary of Education, John King, and they're eager to continue to advocate on our behalf. Just over a week ago, not even a week ago, last Tuesday, I had the opportunity to return to Golden West College, where our Chancellor will be speaking, and it was for their Scholarship Awards event, which was one of those wonderful, messy events at a community college where there were 200 scholarship recipients. I was fortunate enough, my mom, who served on the board there, she's still with us, but they have a scholarship in her honor, was able to meet the recipient, and it just was nice to kind of be back there, and it's been some time to enjoy the joy and see the pride in the families of the students who are making their way, and the recipient of the scholarship is on her way to transfer to the California State University. And finally, just again to add to the chorus of praise for Member Khan, Member Khan is somebody who is a model, I think, for students around the state of both advocacy and effectiveness. I don't know if you all recall, but it was about a year and a half ago was his first meeting with us. And the students were very concerned about the future of the system, and they wanted to make sure a student voice was present on the committee to select our new chancellor. And the students made a very persuasive case, and I was chairing the board at the time, and I said, okay, after reflection and hearing that, I will put Member Khan on the selection committee for our new chancellor. And he represented the students well, and also modeled what I thought was very effective advocacy, and without fail, on every meeting since and every interaction since, Member Khan has modeled that. It wasn't something that we always agree on various issues eye to eye, but it was respectful, and it was collaborative, and it impacted the way I went about, and with Vice President Estolano now, about the search, and it yielded very positive results, as we can all attest. And so I wanted to highlight that one singular example, one of many, that demonstrate the impact that you've had on this board and on this system. So thank you for your service.
Mine's real brief. Thank you again. Appreciate your work.
I just wanted to thank the presidents and some of the other folks I met at 5 colleges I managed to visit since the last meeting, Butte, Shasta, a couple in the Los Rios district, LA Community College, and Trade Tech, and they all treated me very well, and it was a great education for me to meet with students, faculty, and administrators in all those places. I'll add my voice to Member Khan. I was just thinking that when I was your age, I wish I had half the maturity, conscientiousness, and poise that you have shown here, and I wish you well.
I've had the good fortune since our last meeting to go to several conferences, is what I'll call them, and I find that important because it's good to get out beyond your work setting and see what other people are doing and what other people are recommending. I also attended, as Member Haynes did, the ACCJC Partners in Excellence conference. It's the first time they've ever had a conference. Chancellor Ortiz-Oakley was there and did a keynote address, and that was great. And the new or interim president of ACCJC, Richard Wynn, gave a session on new directions for ACCJC, and it does suggest that if he were to stay involved and his assistant, Stephanie Droker, that there would be a real attempt to change the culture. They also went, Dr. Richard Wynn and Stephanie Droker went to the Chief Instructional Officers Conference and again tried to lay out that we are going to change things and make it a new organization. And that was a very good thing. I would also say that the other good thing at the Chief Instructional Officers Conference was the fact that on Friday from 9 to 12, people from the Chancellor's office gave a full outlay of updates to the chief instructional officers and, then answered all the questions. So it was quite good that they did that. And then I went to the non-credit, which I mentioned already. Unbelievable what some colleges are doing already in the non-credit area with this new enhanced funding and the credits that they can use those. And I will say it again, the one that Mount SAC did on short-term vocational programs was very much worth looking at. And I did the spring plenary. You have to go there to be with your other faculty members and friends and stay updated about what's going on throughout the state. And I'll just say thank you to Member Khan. I may see you in Berkeley sometime. And may you continue successfully on your career path.
Thank you, President Estolano. I'd be remiss if I didn't put into the record my appreciation to all the adopted classified professionals at the Chancellor's office who made this morning's event very special. Thank you all for your attendance.
Well, I had the opportunity to participate in elementary school, junior high, and college campuses to go back and teach a little bit about disaster preparedness. So I got a chance to visit back to the elementary school and talking with these teachers. That a lot of them went to the community colleges. I was so proud of that. And then I went and talked at a high school and actually my alma mater, and they actually gave me a Letterman sweater. I was really excited because I lost mine. I got to throw the first pitch, but it wasn't as good as when I was back in high school. But it was just really exciting just to talk about the community colleges. And then with GCC, we got scholarships that we're getting ready to give to veterans or their family members or their children. And I realized with listening to a lot of the VRCs, somehow they got my email and a lot of the people reach out to me. So I love sort of listening and sort of going through and passing it up through the proper chain of command and everything. But what stands out is what was coming up was like, why aren't people applying for scholarships? And they don't know how, they don't feel comfortable, they don't know what to do. So a lot of it was we need to do more education on how to apply for scholarships. And if we know that there's scholarships that are there every year, why aren't they starting to do it at the beginning of the year so when it comes down to it, crunch time, it's not rocket science? I mean, I had to beg, borrow, and steal. We've got scholarships. Why is nobody applying? So I reached back out to my field, and luckily we've got 7 applicants that we're going to go through, which 4 will get selected. So I'm excited about that. But on my last note, I want to say thank you to everybody who's been doing a lot of reach out for veterans and the VRCs. Everybody's starting to get it, and it's not only, you know, me being the voice, not that it's always been there, but I think the voice from the field is being heard. And I think, Con, from you, you were just amazing. I mean, you were a voice to be reckoned with, and you've humbled me, and been so proud to serve with you, and you've made me look at things in different perspectives, and you are definitely a voice of the field. And one of the VRCs wrote something, and actually this was from Nancy Montgomery, who really is a voice for VRCs, but I think this is pertinent not only for veterans, but with Memorial Day coming up, I just wanted to read this. This is actually from John F. Kennedy. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. We must, but not just saying thank you for your service and providing service to our veterans in the California community colleges, but I think we need to really show by our examples, and we are doing that. And I think sometimes there's too much red tape that's going on, and we really need to do better, and I'm honored to be here.
Okay. I spent the bulk of my time preparing for confirmation, which all of you know, it's a lot of time. I want to thank Laura for her assistance, in helping us, and I also want to mention that, Cecilia is so brilliant that you don't want to go to confirmation with Cecilia. She makes you look like a babbling idiot right next to her. So anyway, she did most of the talking. We got through it. So I did. So on the 25th, I was interviewed by the staff. On the 10th, I went to the Senate confirmation, and on May 12th, I also attended the Workforce Pathways Joint Committee, along with Pamela and also Joseph. Finally, I have a quote too, and it's all in regard to Board Member Khan. There's a quote, a common quote, that says that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. And oh, what a spirit he is. Mm-hmm. Brilliant, kind, impeccable manners, strong, everything that we celebrate in a human being. These are trying times, but when I look at him, he gives me hope. He really gives me hope for the future. So I want to thank you for everything you've contributed here. I know you're going to have an extraordinary life, and you're going to add to the lives of everybody you encounter. So I want to thank you, and I wish you love and best wishes.
Thank you so much. President Estolano, with your permission, I'm going to leapfrog us on. Okay, thank you. I've had the pleasure to visit multiple campuses, both in Southern California and now Northern California, as I'm getting ready to become a Northern California resident. So I want to thank all the ASOs, all the ASs that had me, and their hospitality, and I look forward to continuing my outreach into each and every campus. About 2 weeks ago, Hassan and I had the opportunity to give a breakout session and presentation Q&A at the wonderful Spring Student Senate Conference. So I wanted to thank Courtney Cooper, who's in attendance, and the rest of her team and the rest of the Student Senate for a phenomenal General Assembly. I also wanted to thank our wonderful keynote speaker, Chancellor Oakley. He really started that General Assembly on a right foot and truly inspired the members in that venue. Last but not least, I wanted to thank my friend Hassan. We've gone around the table, and each person has sort of discussed that they're certain that Hassan will continue to touch people's lives. As a personal experience, he's touched my life. The first phone call I received after getting this position was actually from Hassan. And from day one, he coached me. He trained me. He yelled at me. He made sure I was prepared for this position, not only for my well-being, but for the students, because that's truly what he cares about. So while it's bittersweet that this is his last meeting, I'm excited that now I get to don the beard, and I get to try to fill in these big shoes that you filled, and you've been on behalf of the 2.3 students that we have in our system, you've been an amazing representative, and you've been a better friend. So thank you so much, man. It's been an honor.
So if
Board
I
Member
could
Khan.
just have a minute or two to say goodbye. I know we've had a lot of reports. I didn't prepare anything because when I tried to, it ended up being this theatrical act where I drop a mic, and I'm afraid what IT would do to me if I did that. So I'll keep it simple, just a few thank yous and some words of advice as I leave the system. I want to thank everyone at the Chancellor's office. I specifically want to look at our Vice Chancellors, our Deputy Chancellor, our Acting General Counsel, everyone. You all are phenomenal. I've seen a myriad of leaders from all levels of experience, whether they're student leaders who astound me like Courtney Cooper or my man Iman, or people from the Chancellor's office, and all of you are just outstanding. If I can belay any message, it's learn about each other, learn about your life experience, because there's so many commonalities we just don't think about. So that's my first round of thank yous. The other thank you I wanted to provide was I really want to thank the board for giving me so many opportunities. I've been a part of such high-level discussions that I never thought or imagined that in the system I would have a role in. And I think it sets an example, and it should be remembered for years to come what students are capable of helping with. The last thing I wanted to be thankful for is that I have a protege who exceeds my abilities or talents. So trust me, he'll serve you fine, and hopefully the beard can come in quickly. We'll give him 2 months.
He was there last night.
Yeah, unfortunately he shed it. So the advice that I have to give is as follows. I want to speak to some of our constituency groups and people that we work with. First, administration. This is going to be weird, but try to sit through a lecture. If you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend you do. Try to see how a student's life is, and it may be odd at first, but it will lend you, hopefully, some perspective. To faculty, keep doing what you're doing. You're incredible people, and what's more important than what you teach is who you are and what the impact is that you have on students' lives. To our classified staff, we can never say thank you enough. Danny Hawkins, you're a great person to point to for that. And to students, these are always going to be my favorites. The potential you have is immeasurable, and the time you have is invaluable. So never stop believing in yourself, and don't second guess what you're capable of. So now to the board, I ask you, do justice by that, and please treat our students appropriately. Do what you can to make their lives better, whether it's focusing on veterans or helping those who simply don't have enough to have a chance at an education. I never revealed this, but there was a time when I actually was a student leader serving in an ASO, living out of my car, working part-time, and taking 12 units. And at that point, I'm like, this is my breaking point. I should just stop with my education. But it took kind words from friends and a lot of help to push me through that. And I came out of it stronger, and seeing where I am now, I couldn't be happier. So I thank everyone involved here in the community college system for the opportunities you've provided me. And the sky's the limit, honestly, to anyone who's hearing this. So thank you again. And specifically, thank you, President Estolano. You've been a hero of mine.
Exercising the chair's prerogative, Hassan, you're a man of great character, immeasurable opportunity and gifts and talent, and I have been honored to serve with you. I have learned so much from you, and I too am inspired by having gotten to know you, and thank you for sharing that story with us. It's important for us to understand what our very best students are facing in our system. So with that, I want to adjourn the meeting, and again, thank you for your service, and I'll see you all in 2 months. Thank you.